Hello, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to this 11th iteration of the Market Coupling Consultative Group meeting. We are truly happy that you have decided to join us this morning. And before we get started, we just have and get to the usual introductions. We have a few practicalities to go over while people are slowly arriving. So first of all, the session will be recorded, as you will probably have seen, and published later on both ENTSO-E and NEMO video websites, to allow you to stream and share it in your own time and to share with colleagues, if you will. Secondly, if you have any questions during the presentation, please share these via the Slido, as we will address the questions after each agenda section. Any outstanding questions will be addressed in the end of the session. To access the Slido, there are multiple ways to do so. So first of all, you should all have received a direct link to the Q&A section on Monday when we shared the presentation. Alternatively, you can use the QR code in the bottom left corner, if you see here, or go to slido.com and use the code on screen to access the Q&A section. So the aim is to answer all your questions in today's call. However, we do recognize that there may not be possible, since some questions may require further investigation and clarification. In this regard, rest assured that all questions and answers will be compiled and shared in the follow-up Q&A, much like last year. So with the practicalities out of the way, I will leave the word to MCCG conveners to introduce themselves and to guide you through today's agenda.
Good morning and welcome from my side as well. My name is Andreas Papanaklis and I'm joining today as TSO co-convener of the Market Coupling Consultative Group. Together with Max and Carol, we're pleased to welcome you today in this MCCG webinar. MCCG remains an important forum for transparent dialogue between market participants, TSOs and NEMOs on key market coupling developments. Today's session covers a broad set of topics, including corrective measures, fallback improvements, 30 minutes intraday gate closure times implementation, Euphemia R&D, regulatory developments, and broader SDAC and SIDC roadmap. We appreciate your participation and your continued engagement in these discussions. Carol, yeah.
Thank you, Andreas. Thank you. Yes, pleasure to meet you all and hope you will find our agenda interesting. We build it together with our colleagues, market participants. My name is Karol Nicza and I work mostly with intraday markets, and I have a pleasure here to represent NEMOS as a MCCG co-chair, and I will leave the floor to Max. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol and Andreas. Many thanks for joining this meeting. My name is Max Schneider, and this year I'm representing market participants towards the Market Coupling Steering Committee and in this meeting, the MCCG. And I'd like already to thank the co-conveners, the NEMOs and TSOs for the work they put into preparing this meeting. Personally, I work for the European electricity industry and I represent, however, all the market participants here. So yeah, looking forward for the meeting.
Having said that, thank you, Andreas, thank you, Max. A few words about the presentation. We will try, of course, to keep the agenda and keep times, but please keep in mind those are indicative. We will definitely try to have a break at the time which is public, so 10:35. As you have heard from Andreas, we will start with corrective measures on both day ahead and intraday time frame, moving to the 30 minutes intraday close zonar gate closure time TSO project and the status of that. And as you have noticed, we have been actually accommodating most of the time for fallback improvement discussion. There's a lot to share, so looking forward for a fruitful discussion. And Andreas, perhaps the next slide goes for you.
Thank you very much, Carol. So yeah, later in the session after the break, we will cover SDAC R&D for Euphemia, including storage orders and the adequacy patch revision, before turning to the 15-minute volume show in SDAC, where teams will share usage trends and operational statistics since go live. We will then move to regulatory deliverables and consultations, and finally to the SDAC SIDC roadmap and key projects. We will provide a broader forward-looking view of implementation planning across the capital markets. Overall, this is a full agenda, and yes, we'll try to to have a good pace and to finish on time with answering all of your questions. So we can move on. Yeah. So before moving into the detailed topics, I will go briefly to clarify the scope of these MCCG discussions. This slide aims to distinguish between those topics that fall within the remit of MCSE and MCCG and those that are more appropriately handled in other forums, such as CCRs or regional processes. As a general principle, MCCG focuses on matters that stem directly from the CACMO framework and are considered market coupling operation matters. That means this forum is intended for cross-cutting SDAC and SIDC topics, methodologies, and operating processes, and wider implementation developments relevant to market participants. At the same time, not every issue can be solved here. Some topics are regional by nature, and some belong to more appropriately to other governance or implementation structures. Our aim is to make MCCG a useful and efficient forum for stakeholders, while also ensuring the requests and concerns are raised in the most appropriate process. Yeah, Carol, you want to go or?
Absolutely, absolutely. So starting with the last questions, which we try to make sure they are tackled and it's all transparent for you. From last MCCG meeting, which was held in October last year, we still have few questions to explain. There were some confusion about them. The first one, which goes directly to NEMOS, and it's on the single day-ahead coupling 15 minutes project implementation. It was questions from market participants to provide the matrix on curves 30 or 60 minutes for paradoxically rejected orders. And here we try to be very clear that we haven't have any paradoxically rejected curves. So there is basically no matrix to provide. Of course, if you have any questions, if that is confusing, please ask. But there is no statistics we could provide. There was none of that rejected orders. With regards to reasons for the delays, so second question, as you see on the slide, well, the reasons are that there is for sure a risk of increased computation time. So some kind of risk of delays. We have increased computation time of 13 minutes, so from 17 to 30. And of course, there is a margin now that we have between validation and publication time, and that is smaller a bit. So yes, risk exists. But we also have shortened times allowed for validation of the result. So if there is a problem during the validation, there is a risk, but we wouldn't say that's a pattern that we have. So if you have any following question, please be free to shoot. Of course, those will be tackled later on when our colleague Timo and Maria will present the statistics of 15 minutes. So hopefully all is tackled. Andreas, you would like to continue?
Yes, one note from my side. The idea is simply to keep the dialogue structured and transparent and to make important points that don't get lost between meetings. So everything that will not be answered today during the call will be taken as an action point afterwards, and we will come to the next meeting. So nothing will be lost.
Yeah, and you see the last I think question in the previous slide, which was we adapted the link, so now we have all the newest information, and all this is public as attached to this presentation, which is as well public. Thank you. If we jump to corrective measures, maybe here I would introduce our colleagues on the day-ahead side. It's Timo and Maria are working very closely with this topic, and on the intraday will be Vladimir presenting. And then we have a slide from and a bit of a time from the market participant itself. The topic is very much interesting, so perhaps I will leave the floor to Timo and Maria if you would like to continue.
Thank you, Carol. Good morning, all. I will take the day ahead part and the first part of the corrective measures today, and then I give to Vladimir to continue with the intraday section. To start with this corrective measures recap, what we have been presenting in the last MCCG, and a reminder where we stand. So there is a communication about the corrective measures activation process available on the NEMA committee and the ENTSO-E webpage. And then to recap what is we have done with there, we have a process agreed between the parties, and in case there is a need to activate any of the corrective measures, that will be informed either by the Market Coupling Steering Committee as well relevant NIMOs to the market participants, and that will be done at least 1 week before the activation of the corrective measure itself. So there is a time for preparation of your systems as well. To remind here that the corrective measures, they are only triggered on the day ahead side when we see issues with the performance of the algorithm, and they are the last resort measures. So before those are activated, the other mitigation measures are looked at. But the corrective measures coming from algorithm methodology, and of course those are temporary basis activated maximum 8 months time for finding the solution that algorithm can be scaled back up so that those can be removed, the use of the corrective measures. How we do this, there is the monitoring process on daily basis. There are KPIs, key performance indicators to follow, and that has been detailed as well, how this monitoring is done. In case those KPIs met, then we kick off the process to start looking at what is the root cause of the performance degradation, and then what are the corrective measures that could be applied, and that's done based on then the analysis. And based on the analysis results, then recommendation done which corrective measures to be applied. I think we can go for the next slide. Basically, this is a replication of the previous one, so saying it's the interim corrective measures are only interim solutions, and they are investigated what is the best possible corrective measures to be applied. And time schedule in the below, they say that 8 months time for having a system back on track in that sense. Then I think the last one for day ahead is the next slide. If you can go, yes. The last MCCG, the list of the corrective measures and the application rules were presented. The reminder, what was have in the October meeting, we have 3 corrective measures at the moment agreed. So 2 of them are linked to the products, looking at the product usage of the NIMOs. So we say it's the reduction of the all NIMO product usage down to level where we can meet the Euphemia performance criteria. The second one is about removing the link blocks and the exclusive groups from all NIMOs that is applicable. For network related, there we have at the moment HVDC lines ramping limits, but also to the line set rampings and that is agreed that this line set ramping could be then changed to the individual ramping limit. And then, of course, there is ongoing work then with the NIMOs that how they can do the coordination and the preparation in what level that is possible to done. The work is continuing. It has been ongoing quite a long time, but we still continue to work until end of this first half of this year, and we are looking at the new corrective measures or the modifications to the existing ones. And unfortunately, we don't have any today to present, but we will come back in the next ones if we have any news to be informed. But what I can just highlight here, algorithm performance declaration is the reason that those can be applied, but they are the last resort measures. First, we look at the other mitigation measures that can be applied before these need to be taken into account. And then those are, like say, not the permanent ones, but only for the interim time period, and then try to find a solution to eliminate those usages. Are there any questions on this to us, or shall we go with Vladimir's?
I see no question in the Slido, and also we can take all the questions in the end. So please continue.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning from my side. I will focus on continuous trading in SIDC. And on fly, I will also try to respond to 3 questions that we've received upfront, which are related mainly to the legal analysis, which was executed within the framework of corrective measures. So let me start with the first topic, and that's the short term, as we call it, or the current situation where we are. And we are not just looking in the corrective measures, but in parallel, we are looking on the improvements, because everybody knows that we are in so-called hybrid mode when we are trying to keep load management under control already for some time. And market participants are aware that there are some, let's say, challenging days when there is a huge load, which is translated into latency. So we are looking into all these topics and trying to deliver improved performance as possible. And I think that's the first thing which is quite important in terms of the focus on the short-term period. So we indicated last time that we have a constant discussion on the improvement of performance of the system, and this discussion continues. So while we are testing already some improvements that should be delivered into the operation in Q2 this year, we already have development for next package, and then we are discussing some strategic performance improvements. So we are looking ahead a couple of years to understand how market is expected to behave, to read some patterns, of course, may be different in the end, but we are looking on the constant improvement. So the very positive message is that with regard to release 5.0, which should be delivered into operation soon, we've already completed UAT tests with regard to the performance. And I'm proud to announce here that the results of the performance are quite promising. So definitely it will increase the processing power and things that we need to focus on. There are still a couple of steps that we need to do, but we are that set to the targets to deliver this solution as scheduled. So around May this year, and this should be delivered into operation, and definitely it should ease out the situation for the market participants. But the topic of the corrective measure will stay there, because it may happen that there will be certain demand which requires load management. So we have to do with this topic. And for that, we are not working just only on the improvement of performance corrective measures, but we're also improving KPI which are used to monitor the operation to better understand the exact weak points and how we should improve them. So all this is under preparation. We are working on the better definition of the thresholds and clarification. So all this is ongoing, and we are pretty much focused on it. This has several aspects. There are technical aspects that we are working on, and there are also commercial aspects with our service providers that we need to put into practice. But all this has the same target. So, for example, with the monitoring, we have already in the practice monitoring where we get the results on a weekly basis. We are now heading for the daily basis. We are improving, but everything should be, in principle, delivered by the same time when we improve the performance. So that's for the short-term measures where we really want to improve the things that we have in the operation. There was one question related to that and to legal analysis, if the legal analysis was also focused on a so-called hybrid model. So that means that different MOs are applying different measures right now. The answer is quite clear. This was not within the scope. The scope of the legal analysis is really focused on the harmonized corrective measures and how we want to apply it in the future. So, yeah. With that, I think we can move to the next slide, which is focused more on the target solution, which you want to see. So the target solution, there are a couple of measures, and I think there will be also feedback provided by the market participants how you see these measures. What we've presented last time was a kind of roadmap, how we want to look into those measures, because it's not just that we define the measure, but we also want to analyze the measure to understand exact contribution benefit of the measure and also how we can implement it. So from those technical measures, there were 3 in the list, one of them being limitation of the order book depth. There we started some application already at the beginning of December. We have initial results, frankly speaking, when we dropped from 100 to 50, it delivered some improvements, but this was quite limited. So this is still on the table to analyze it if we want to get more out of it or better understand or how to analyze it, because there is also one interesting topic that we want to understand how in practice this order book depth is used. So there is a second stage of the analysis that we need to look into. With regard to link orders, which was another measure to be used, we've already executed 2 sets of tests, one in the fall last year and one recently in February. And then we've concluded that we will take this measure out of the list of the corrective measures because, let's say, the expected improvement wasn't delivered. So this is not to be kept here anymore, and the conclusion is final here, and this simply will not stay in the list. Then the next one was related to the price tick size change. We identified that we wanted to run some tests in December. However, due to a high peak situation and limited resources of the supplier, and then with the preference to deliver new product as soon as possible, we had to move this test to early March. And in fact, it will be executed today. So after today, we should have feedback on the technical feasibility, and then of course all the other items which are linked to the discussion will stay. And then we have a whole bench of the OR measures, so either over all the transactions, over trades, or over the volumes, and all this stuff. This is under discussion. That was also one topic of the legal analysis, which leads me to the second question which we received. There was question if the legal analysis was addressing just ORs or all the corrective measures. The scope of the legal analysis from a SIDC perspective was to focus on all corrective measures. The positive feedback is that in principle, none of the corrective measures is somehow identified that it's breaching something. So they may be used for the purpose that they are defined. So for the performance improvement, temporary performance improvement, or load management. So that's correct. But there's a second step that is required to be executed, and this is a detailed impact analysis, which should specify potential ordering of the measures and how we will apply them. So this is all which is still ahead of us, and we need to define all these details. And the last question we just raised within this respect was related if we can share this analysis with market participants. The whole scope of the analysis is restricted. It cannot be shared, but there is some summary which was created for the purpose of sharing, at least with regulators. And this is a legal question, and thank you for the question. We will address it internally, and we will come back to you to what extent and what scope we can share with the market participants. So definitely we may share more than what I stated right now, but it needs to be legally confirmed in which direction and to what depth we can follow up on this topic. And I think that would be for SIDC.
Shall we go then, Max, to your slide, and then after that, perhaps answer all the questions?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So in general, when it comes to corrective measures, market participants remain rather critical about them and believe that infrastructure bottlenecks, if they arise, should be solved by performance improvements rather than market interventions. And in that regard, we also welcome the upcoming XBIT releases and hope that they will help to preserve product availability. Also, that's a question to what extent you think that upcoming releases in 26 and 27 can then reduce the need to implement these measures that are now under evaluation. And if they are implemented as a last resort, as you said yourself, then we believe that they should remain temporary, and importantly, that market participants should be consulted on their design, on the practical implementation. It would be that's important to avoid the level playing field from being undermined, especially if NEMOs then begin to implement additional corrective measures in an uncoordinated way. As regards the concrete proposals that you have presented, we have gathered some preliminary views regarding XBIT, where we understand that there have been performance challenges. First, regarding the reduction of tick sizes, most market participants consider that a tick size of 10 euro cents would be sufficient, but some have argued that current tick sizes enable better representation of marginal costs in the market. We believe that the Market Coupling Steering Committee could investigate, for example, impacts on price formation of having a different tick size, also depending on the market liquidity of different bidding zones. When it comes to linked orders, now I understand that you've decided not to pursue this further. This aligns a bit with the question we had, considering that they might not be used very much, to what extent their removal would then actually help performance. This seems to be then now have been answered. I would just mention that linked orders such as parent-child links remain relevant for some technologies. So some market participants may want to rely on them. When it comes to order ratios, market participants could agree to such measures, but there's a lot of different possibilities to implement them, and they should be implemented on reasonable terms and especially discussed with market participants. And if they are not aligned across NEMOs, then there's again this level playing field issue that will arise, and that would be damaging to the internal electricity markets. So therefore, we would look forward to further consultation and involvement on this matter, and also to avoid too radical changes which could disrupt market participants' trading activities. When it comes to the limitation of order book depth, I understand that your assessment shows that in the end, the reduction from 100 to 50 best competitive orders did not achieve the intended result. We think that we're quite critical about reducing the order book depth further. As I saw in a question also, this would have quite an impact on market liquidity, and therefore we would also appreciate if this assessment that you talked about could be shared with market participants. That would be all for the moment, and of course, as you mentioned, this legal analysis that the MCSC has conducted, we would very much welcome if it could be shared, or the conclusions, or certain aspects of it, what it covered, how the analysis looks like. Thank you.
Thank you, Max, so much for the presentation. And of course, we are very glad that you are very much interested into the topic and want to contribute. And definitely, we are looking forward for continue the cooperation and the dialogue. Now I will leave the floor to perhaps some kind of Q&As, and we receive already a few questions. Perhaps those could be tackled. Timo, would you like to answer the first one, perhaps?
Yes. Good morning. From NEMO's and TSO's point of view, we fully acknowledge and agree the negative impact on from the removal of the exclusive groups and linked blocks. However, at this stage, if we are in very severe performance degradation situation, then based on the validation or testing we have run during 2025, that combination is the only identified way that actually significantly reduces the calculation time. So it's a measure that if it's really, really needed, we can take down the calculation time to the level that we can secure the market coupling sessions in the coming days after the 7-day grace period, obviously, the notice to the market participants. As Maria noted, we are working with identifying further proposals during the first half of the year. And in other points, we continuously improve the performance of the Euphemia release by release. Nevertheless, since we are responsible of securing that we have a price calculated every day, we need to have a way to reduce the complexity if it is absolutely needed. So the removal of executive groups, linked blocks will not disappear as a corrective measure, but we are all agreement in the very negative impact to the market. So your voice has been heard. We understand the consequences, but in case we have to, then it is a tool we can utilize.
Thank you, Timo. And perhaps the second question, Vladimir, would you be able to answer?
Yeah, I will try to address it. So let's see if my answer is sufficient. So there's a question to provide more information about the limitation of the book depth impact. So indeed, as I stated, we have many KPIs which we use to monitor the system, and we choose the periods for which this change has been executed. So that's for the last 3 months, I would say already. And seeing the figures, seeing the behavior of the systems, we do not see any principal impact there. And we were wondering because, when we presented the topic, we explained that we want to go to 50, and then based on the result of the analysis, we may decide to cut it even more. We are transparent on the topic. We haven't decided yet. This is something to be still discussed. But we also started to thinking or considering this point from a little bit different perspective based on the analysis of the operation data that we have to identify what in practice is the order book depth that the market participants are utilizing. And this is something that we want to follow up on. We are at the beginning of the process, but there are some, let's say, I wouldn't say that the results of the analysis, but some earlier assumptions and expectations that what in practice is used is much less than those 50. So that leads us to that conclusion that we really want to analyze that. So we understand that market participants would like to have as big order book depth as possible. But we want to have answer on the question, what in practice is used? Because one thing is to have something and the other thing is to use it in practice. And then we see that maybe quite a big differences and we want to analyze it. So I hope it helps, provides more details.
Thank you so much.
We'll have a follow-on question from Jerome again. So, Timo, can you say maybe a word, or can we take it?
My proposal is we take this offline among the NEMO's TSOs and get back at some point in future.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
I would have an additional reaction just to what you just said. We would appreciate if this analysis that market participants actually rely on a much smaller order book depth, if that could be shared at some point, that would be very helpful. And in general, also, if the timeline, which now has been shifted a bit of the corrective measures, if it could be possible maybe to at some point update it to understand when what would be under consideration for application. Thanks.
Point taken. We will take most points. I haven't mentioned one thing in my part. In the same way as for Dayhead, we also working on the overarching document, which should somehow provide answer to all these questions and provide clear overview for the market participants. We are somewhere in the middle of the process. As I explained, we also need to somehow negotiate that contractual with the service providers, so it goes hands in hands. And once these processes are completed, there will be more material to share with the market participants. And our target is, as indicated, to have it done somewhere by mid-May this year.
Thank you, Vladimir.
Thank you. Yeah, Andreas, you can continue. Thank you so much for these questions, and we can now move on to another topic.
Yeah. So let's move now to the next topic, which is the implementation of a 30-minute intraday get closure time for continuous trading. and the related go-live steps in 2026. Well, this is an important topic for market participants because we are now moving from planning to actual implementation milestones. In this tech section, we'll hear about the first go-live that already took place in January, as well as the remaining derogations and the planning for the next steps. As you know, implementation is not fully uniform across all borders, so this update will help you give a clearer picture of where things stand today and what to expect going forward. With that, I'll hand now to Gergo Holo for the detailed presentation.
Thank you very much for the introduction and welcome everyone in today's MCCG call. Indeed, TSOs are happy to announce that several borders went live successfully on the 14th of January, as well as the one border in February. Basically, Austrian, German, Czech, Slovenian, Croatian, Italian border went live together as one group, as well as in the Baltics, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania introduced the 30-minute intraday cross-zonal gate closure time successfully early this year. The go-live process was rather smooth according to our experiences. At least no major problem or incident was identified. And TSOs are started to collect the conclusions of this go-live. But due to the limited time periods after the go-live and between this MCCG, and no big assessment could be carried out for the time being, but we already experienced that the market is using this extra 30 minutes. So there are indeed cross-zonal trades between the relevant countries and borders. So that's good news, and we continue to assess the impacts of this change and plan to come back with some assessment also in the upcoming MCCGs. About the future plans, it's good to mention, if you can switch, Christina, good to mention that almost all TSOs and countries received the derogation where the derogation request was submitted. There were some changes in terms of end dates of these derogation periods in some cases, which require, of course, some planning or replanning on the TSO implementation plans. This is ongoing, of course, and some areas still waiting, or some TSOs are still waiting for the derogation, for the approved derogation. Nevertheless, TSO started this exercise to plan when they can potentially go live, taking into account the derogation period as well as their local implementation plans. And we have indicated this in the table in the presentation. I have to highlight that this is the first indicative timing for these areas, which require further discussion, clarification, also within the project to submit the relevant change requests, as well as to streamline it to the relevant processes. So the point is that this is the first indication, and we plan to provide a regular update during the upcoming MCCGs in order to inform you properly on the exact plans of these areas and TSOs. I also would like to highlight that we have more detailed overview of both the derogations and the planned go-live. So basically, we list all the borders in this detailed overview, which is now updated both with the derogations and with the planned go-live dates. And this updated version is available on ENTSO-E website. You can see the link in the presentation. Feel free to check it and assess the relevant borders for you. Again, I only wanted to reiterate that further information and further or more precise planning with concrete go-live dates will come once we finalize the plans, and we will announce it during the upcoming MCCGs. Thank you very much.
I think we can give a minute or two for the questions if there are any.
See a single question in there. If you could there it is. So of course, starting up with the congratulations and thank you very
Indeed.
much. Yeah, and then
this is a good catch. You could see something similar as well in other borders. So TSOs receive derogations until a certain point in time, but of course their aim is to go live as soon as possible. So this means that there are some areas and borders and some cases where even though that the derogation points to a later point in time, like mid-27, for example, or early 27, the TSOs aims to go live a bit earlier if that's possible. So that's what we indicated in the current plans. So this is not an error. This is indeed the plan. And that's why I'm stated that we will come back to you with the more precise planning. And hopefully we can confirm that indeed in these areas, the go live could happen even earlier than the expire of the derogation. So in short, the current plan is in the table. This is the correct version.
Yeah, we can move to the next area.
Thank you so much. I take it from here. Thank you. Well, as you have noticed, we have booked almost 50 minutes for describing and updating you with latest discussions on the fallback improvements for the day-ahead process. So I will a bit introduce the topic, and then later on my colleague Ture will discuss a bit of the details from the TSO perspective on specific work streams. Then Ivona will as well describe the NEMO workstream 1 in details. Later on, our colleague Lara and Gorgio will discuss the workstream 4 and 6, which is focusing on the intraday continuous process and mechanism for the fallback for the SDAC. And then our colleague Jean-Michel will give you latest updates on the core region and the volume allocation process. There were some questions here, so we are happy. Most probably we are able to tackle all of them. And the last but not least, Milos, our colleague, will tell you a bit about the latest trainings on the full decoupling sessions. So coming back to the introduction, the next slide, yes. We have been asked specifically about the follow-up from the latest alignment meeting between NEMO TSOs, ACERN and arrays. That workshop, Pantalateral Coordination Group, was held in January, and then specific outcomes were structured in the work streams. As said, I will not go into details. My colleagues are competent to take and guide you through everything. Just to tell that workstream 1 is mostly focusing on the NEMO processes, all from generate the submission to validate the local system functionality, improve robustness, and so on. While workstream 2 and 3, we could maybe go to another slide. And here I will introduce my colleague Ture, are mostly on the TSO side. So if Ture, you are already able to guide us through, I think that is the best moment.
Thank you, Karol. So my name is Ture Grande. I work in Statnett, Norway, but in the market coupling and co-convening the governance task force.
But here I will say where we are on TSO side when it comes to the mitigation measure to prevent decoupling. As you all know, in many know, in CSM2, it's written that 1530 is the latest nomination deadline for cross-border trade for day ahead. And it has been discussed and is discussed among TSOs if this nomination deadline can be relaxed. In the unofficial draft we have seen of CSM2, there's no timing left, and we think as TSO that's a good move, that we should not hard code timings in such regulation. But for TSOs to remove or change the nomination deadline, it's a prerequisite that shadow auction between the bidding zones, between the borders, will not longer be there. The reason for that is the experience from the past when we have decoupling, fortunately not too many, is that shadow auction give significant mismatches on the borders. Such mismatches must be handled by TSOs when we go into the next phases in the afternoon, which is building the IGM for the next time frame. So I mean, after the nomination deadline, there are multiple processes among TSOs. IGM is one. The ROSC, security analysis, all these processes is very important, and all these are to have a safe system operation. If we have an alternative allocation mechanism like intraday continuous trading, like we say, is a good candidate, then we will avoid these mismatches on the border, and it's possible then to move or allocate 30 more minutes to other processes like calculation with Euphemia, like verification results, nomination, etc. But how the time will be allocated between different processes is still to be discussed, and has not been discussed yet. But we will certainly have in some more time, and having more time is also increase the probability to avoid decoupling, which we all aim for. So that is one of the processes we are looking into workstream 2. And then workstream 3, more the same. That the precondition is that moving this is that we moving the nomination deadline is that fallback is no longer shadow auction. So, but like we say, but how we will allocate time, that's still to be assessed between TSOs and NEMOs, and then that's something we have to come back to later. If we move in this direction and use IDCT as the fallback. Are there any questions to this?
Yes, there is a question. Yeah.
Okay, I'll try to explain. Shadow auction, the experience in shadow auction from TSOs is that we have the auction, but after the auction, the parties are required to nominate. We have seen these nominations are not very solid, not very good, so then we get mismatches on the borders. These mismatches is not welcome by the TSOs and must be handled. And then we need time for that, and this time we need, and by that we cannot change the nomination deadline due to the time we need to take care of these mismatches. That's why we cannot do it if shadow auction is kept. The last one is where we are now. It's good to consider a full decoupling as.
Perhaps we can continue to have questions, and please state them in the chat. Max, if that's fine with you as well. And then we try to go through each and every work stream because there are plenty of them.
Yeah, you also overlap between the different work streams, like you say.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And maybe we can take all the questions meanwhile when they are popping up, and we try to answer them when the blog is finished, if that's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Max. So please write your question, which definitely will be worth to look into, and then we try to tackle them. Going forward, maybe I will introduce a bit what are our work streams. As said, I will not go into the details. We have a specialist here with a lot of competence that will guide you through. Work stream 4, is a continuous market, that mechanism as a, that the one we investigate as the fallback mechanism for day ahead. And here we are looking at everything, from the procedures to the timings to the next steps, trying to draft how that could look like. I think it's an ongoing process. Later on, our colleagues will guide you through. Workstream 5, the next slide, will be presented by Jean-Michel. And that is about, we can try to go to another slide. Yes, thank you. Workstream 5 will be the one trying to give you the latest updates on the volume allocation. So basically how we want to prevent the multiple prices in case of decoupling. And the last but not least, Workstream 6, which is as well looking at the specific how we should get the SDAG reference price in case on full decoupling. And perhaps here I leave the floor to our specialist, starting from Ivona, to describe a bit Workstream 1, which is the NEMO improvements and NEMO discussion. So if you, Ivona, are able to take over, we can start.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, perfect. Great. So I will briefly describe then the Workstream 1, aimed to prevent the partial decoupling. NEMOs were asked to reconsider the improvements they could apply to local trading systems. And after some discussions, we came up with two ideas which we are now working towards finalizing the details. But high-level description of the first one, you see now in the screen, is the daily process we are thinking of introducing, daily process of generating a order book ahead of gate closure time. And the generation will be only local one. And we call it test order book because, of course, this file wouldn't be used anywhere else than to test the functionality of the local trading system of aggregation and generation of the order book. We are also considering using this file in, let's say, local environment for the extra validation around the new upgrades or releases of the environments, just to make sure that the local environments and centralized environments have identical schemas. And we think that both of these tests might, of course, help to discover any potential issues ahead of gate closure time and give us more time to solve the problems that we can encounter. Additional point that we have here as well is the let's say hope that we could have as many orders as possible in our systems, and that would help us to validate the functionalities even better. So we are also considering how we could perhaps communicate this and make the process even more efficient. Could we go to the second? Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. And the second idea is to increase the resiliency and let's say create a harmonized architecture setup by having a requirement for the primary and secondary sites with the quick failover, as well as the disaster recovery site, which is physically separate from the main setup in production. The second point includes working on the framework with 3 pillars, which would allow us to create a standardized framework and base requirements for each local trading system the parties would adhere to, and create this harmonized description of the requirements for the local trading systems. The details here are high level. We are still working on details, so the finalized processes will be introduced in a later time. But we hope that this approach will meet the requirements of each stakeholder and will help us to prevent the decouplings or discover any issues ahead of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivana, so much. Shall we then move on to work stream 4 and 6? And I leave the floor here to both Lara and Gabia.
Yeah, thanks a lot. A lot of questions. It's very nice. Thank you very much. We hope to answer as many questions as possible. And in case you, Carol and Andreas, see something worth to be mentioned while I'm speaking, just stop me. So, as anticipated by our wonderful MCCG conveners, part of the PCG workshop was dedicated to these 2 work streams, namely the one that aims to find a replacement for shadow auctions, and one of the candidates also suggested by the regulator was the usage of the SIDC continuous trading. The other one is aims to remove the multiplicity of prices in case of full decoupling or in case of impossibility to achieve clearing price formation via SDAC auction. So the case also for partial decoupling of the whole bidding zone, which is the work stream 6. So the group convened by me and Gergo, where NIMOs and TSOs are discussing this option, is indeed working on the possibility of see how we can use the existing operational market of the intraday continuous trading to also function in specific occasions, hopefully very, very unlikely and rare occasions of fallback for the SDAC market. And what's the parameter we are investigating to be applicable? Because you know better than me that based on where you are active as a market participants, based on what's your country of activity, you have a different fallback, because usually fallback is a regional matter. And so not all borders are currently with shadow auctions as a fallback. Hence, the perimeter we have identified and from where we start investigating if it's possible to use a continuous trading are all the borders that are currently subject to shadow auctions. Hence, for example, if I consider Italian peninsula or Greece or the Nordic regions, those are not falling under our investigations because those borders are not currently subject to shadow auction, so there's nothing to replace there. So we mainly dedicate our focus and attention to core region, which is the main one where shadow auctions are applied as a fallback, and we are not considering to apply this fallback in the countries where SDAC fallback, the current fallback, which is mainly local auction, is not leading to price multiplicity, because this was the main scope of the two work streams. So what's the main object of our investigations are borders with current shadow auctions as a fallback, and countries, bidding zones, better maybe, where we have not the risk of ending up with more than one clearing price applying the current fallback. So we are working at it. We are trying to verify pros and cons. We are trying to evaluate the matching of current events based on the operational timeline and how they can either be used as they are or slightly adjusted to function as a fallback. And among the various topics we are analyzing, one of them is the aim, also as per suggestion from the regulator, to harmonize as much as possible while we evaluate the introduction of this fallback. Of course, there are clear and already, let's say, justified places where not necessarily this introduction of this fallback is considered, because there are a lot of reasons already provided by relevant parties active in the countries, but in other countries, and as I said already, mainly in core region, we are exploring. So together with this, of course, while we evaluate this whole architecture, we are also evaluating the interaction between the two work streams we are mainly focused on, and the one that has been already mentioned before, the one related to the possible postponement of the nomination deadline we are once again talking about core region. Because, of course, the moment, and actually, as I see it, that work stream is also related to the other ones, because it might introduce a way of better improve the current operational timeline. But anyway, based on the current assumption, we are working with basically two scenarios, the one where we keep the nomination deadline as is, and the one when we extend the nomination deadline at 4. And we are basically one by one, as I said already, evaluating the current processes so that we can see where there's room for improvement, and indeed verify if we can define the critical processes that are currently already defined in operational deadline, and make use of this additional time and make use of the existing processes for continuous trading to see if everything can fit together. We can maybe go to the next slide. Unless there's, because sorry, I'm watching the screen, so I'm not fully following what's happening in Slido. If anything worth to be mentioned, just let me know, please.
We're going to tackle all the questions in the end, so don't worry.
Okay, great. Then, yeah, indeed. So, what will happen in practice? So, as I said, we are considering the main case we are considering for analysis is the full decoupling. Also, we are considering the partial decoupling of the whole bidding zone, but as I usually emphasize and remind, it's in principle and unfortunately more likely to suffer from a full decoupling than decoupling of the whole beating zone, and I explain why, because we are mainly focusing, as I also wrote in one of the questions already posted, we are mainly focusing on the areas where it's not possible to have only one clearing price. And so having a partial decoupling of a whole bidding zone where more than one MIMO is active there is, of course, a more unlikely event than it can be the one where only one MIMO is active. So if I consider as a target, let's say the full decoupling, so to better explain, but then of course everything I say is also applicable to the case of a partial decoupling of the bidding zone, we are at 220, and I think that more details will be provided in terms of timeline by my colleague Gergo in a couple of slides, but then we are at the event, and then we are considering moving all the offers or based on market participant activities from the SDAC to XBID. Then at a specific point in time, we will take a picture of the system which is compatible with the new or the current nomination deadline, and that's why we consider a time window reference which goes from 1515 to 1545. And basically there are two critical processes that would need to be considered. The generational loss schedules will be based on trading happening in the SIDC continuous trading platform. So at a specific point in time, there will be a sort of snapshot that will be taken for the sake of nominations that you usually do every day for what happens inside the bidding zone, and the SDAC reference price, also price for financial matters, will be taken as a price from the SIDC continuous trading, and based on what will happen in terms of postponement on the nomination deadline, will be considered on a time window going from 1515 to 1545. So considering that this is of course having impact on your side as market participants, as actor of this market in case on normal day, but of course also in case of fallback, we are here to emphasize what would need to be done by you. So what would be the new operational target time, and at what time you would have available the SDAC reference price. We are also working at a survey that we aim to share with you, where you will be kindly requested to provide your point of view to specific and main points that are connected to the proposal of the usage of this fallback, so we can take with us your evaluation, your feedback, and try to verify which points could be improved, what might represent critical processes for you, and so on. So if questions are for the end, then we can go to the next slide, where we provide the geographical overview, or basically where we are evaluating the introduction of this fallback. So the areas in greenish are basically the let's say the dark green, and the one in green stripe, which are basically, I think it's Austria, France, and sorry, my bad, maybe it's Czech Republic, that one. Anyway, so those are the areas we are considering for the introduction of the fallback. Anything with a different color is not under the radar of this fallback. Some reference in the footnotes are for the harmonization, although recent developments and recent discussions might not necessarily consider that harmonization inside the same harmonization, let's say, for the same country for all the borders, because we know that when it comes to neighboring countries with different fallback, there might be some borders that will be still subject to shadow auctions and some borders that are instead proposed to switch to the intraday continuous trading. Based on recent developments, not necessarily this kind of harmonization would represent a blocker, but we are still discussing the topic, and indeed we aim to also collect more information from your side. I will now, I don't know if I need to stop, because now my aim is to hand over to Gergo for the completion of the presentation. I don't know if we need to take the questions that have been posted so far, or we'll let
Gergo. Yeah, a bit pressed for time, so I suggest that we proceed. Yeah, and then we will see what time we have left in the end. Otherwise, of course, all questions have been noted and are not lost to MCCG.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you so much.
So I will continue the presentation. As Lara kindly explained a lot of details, but we wanted to dig a bit more deeper, to present you how we see the processes itself. Now you can see on the slide how this fallback process could look like in case we don't shift the nomination deadline as well as the full decoupling deadline. So in that case, full decoupling happens at latest 14:20, when capacity calculation starts in the core region, if we focusing now on the core region. And then basically in the meantime, market parties can have the possibility to start a transfer of their bids from day ahead to intraday. And it's important to highlight that according to this concept, there will be no automatic transformation of bids. So NEMOs will not take care of transforming any bids from one market to another. This would be the responsibility of the market parties. So they can start to prepare for such transfer. While in the meantime, when capacity is published, then of course they can finalize their bids and then start the trading in the intraday market. Of course, there are some markets which open earlier for the local trading, and these market parties can in principle start a trading activity there earlier. But of course, probably the most active trading part would start with the opening of the cross-zonal market. If the nomination deadline is kept, then that would mean that we also consider that market parties would need some time to basically assess their positions and then do the nomination. So that would mean that we need to take or count backwards and take the snapshots before this nomination deadline at 15:30. So this means that around 15:15, we should take the snapshot and then calculate this as a reference price that can be then used for finalizing the positions and then doing the nominations. So this would mean that effectively there will be 15 minutes of trading activity in the cross-zonal market in intraday. If we move to the next slide, we created an alternative version presenting basically the potential how to use the shifting of nomination deadline provided 30 extra minutes. Basically, we have two big points to be optimized, as Lara already mentioned. We need to fix or set the full decoupling deadline from 14:20. In principle, if we use all the 30-minute, this could even shift to 14:50. And then partly attached to this, but this could also optimize a bit separately, we need to define the day-ahead reference price snapshot which would, again, using the same assumption that some time would be needed for the reevaluation of the positions and doing the nominations, could end at 15:45. So this is how we came to these two figures at the end, which was already displayed and explained by Lara. These are basically the cornerstones of this investigation. And I again want to highlight that nomination is quite important for at least the TSOs to run the subsequent processes, namely the IGM building process, which is then used for the capacity calculation and security assessment and various other activities. So this is why it's important to understand how much time market parties would need for the specific activities, how much time they would need to transfer the bids, recalculate the positions, and do the local nominations, whether they consider that the time is enough and they can provide reliable schedules. This is why we aim to create this survey that was already mentioned. And this is why we plan to publish it and collect feedback from market parties to have this information available. And on the very last slide, we also wanted to explain a little bit how this day at reference price is planned to be calculated. So basically, this will be a weighted average, weighted by the volume, used for all those trades where at least one of the counterparts, either the buyer or the seller, is in this bidding zone that is affected with this fallback solution, which is also executed within this predefined time window that we just explained, which is ready for, or I mean, which is before this snapshot time. So either starting from 1500 to 1555 or 1545, or even if it's a local trade, then this can be also considered. But the point is that the end time is fixed or set in this term. There are some nice formulations. Given that we are a little bit behind of the schedule, I would not explain all the details because you can see it and you can check it. Also afterwards, you can see the numerical example, but the point is that this will be basically a weighted average price based on the concluded trades in the affected bidding zone. And with that, I think I can close and then we will answer the questions at a later stage. For now, I don't know if...
No,
Yeah,
I think there are so many questions that it's
Yes.
much better to
Okay.
move on, because there are still a lot of slides to present you. Indeed, now my colleague Jean-Michel will give you the latest status on the core and volume allocation process. So, meanwhile, we try to gather all your questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So quickly, indeed, I will provide you an update on the change in case of partial decoupling of NIMOs in the core region, so by implementation of volume allocation. So in a nutshell, as a reminder of what was already explained in the previous MCCG, following the EMDR reform and the fact that local auction in case of partial decoupling is no more allowed, NIMOs and TSOs work on a solution for the core region where it was agreed to apply volume allocation in such case. So what it means, volume allocation, that means that if one NIMOs is decoupled, instead of performing a local auction and then having a different price, they will take the exact price defined by this zone because other NIMOs are still connected and coupled in this M&A area. And so you will take this exact price and will run a volume allocation, so trying to match bids at this specific exact price. So the advantage is that for market parties, after reopening of order book, they still have the possibility in the day time frame to exchange bits locally with other customers in the same NIMO, but at the exact price defined by the couple NIMO, so there is no more different price in the same area as we had in the past. Then, of course, once this is done, the process continue, and continuation could be done over the counter or in the intraday market. So if you go to the next slide, provide some status since last time. So this is now agreed, and Nord Pool already is ready to offer volume allocation to its trading member in case of partial decoupling of Nord Pool in the future. So that's already the case since end of January. Apex Spot also inform their members that they are targeting mid-March 2026 in order to no more operate a local auction, but also apply a volume allocation. And basically, most of the NIMOs, except in Poland and Romania, will implement volume allocation by April. Regarding the M&A, we have an update on the next slide, but basically the TSO have worked on the update of the multiple NEMO arrangement, which is still a local topic, and are in the process to submit this updated M&A to their regulator, or for some this is already done. There is a kind of synchronization between TSOs and NIMOs in order to avoid to multiply different wording, and so the updates of M&A in M&A area are we are trying to be synchronized in order to have the same rules everywhere. But as say, as soon as one M&A was already approved, and it was in Belgium in February, most of the NIMOs will not wait that all other M&A are updated in order to start the implementation. On the next slide, we have the status of the update of M&A. And so, yeah, I will not go into the detail, but basically, in Austria, this is submitted. This is waiting approval of NRA. In Belgium, that was approved. So the new M&A is already in force since February. In Germany, Luxembourg, this was submitted also. This is under NRA approval. In France, that was also submitted. Netherlands, they are working because initially that was not clear if they were needed to have an update, but now this is clarified, so there will be a submission. And in the other countries, either there is no change required or that will be submitted in March, for instance, for Romania. So in a nutshell, that's ongoing, and probably by end of April, most of the M&A zone will be with volume allocation, and Romania and Poland will follow.
Thank you, Jean-Michel. Thank you for that. I guess we could now move on to the slide presented by Milos on the trainings for market participants on the full decoupling.
Yes, hello. As Carol said, last but not least, this is a short update on the training session with market participants, the last one held in November last year, as well as the future ones that we are planning within this year. So maybe to quickly look back at the last one that we had on the 19th of November, just after the go live of 15 MTUs. We are aware that not everything went according to plan because although we do these sessions almost every year, each session has its own specifics and pain points that we have to take into account. We have already drafted some lessons learned and already implemented some changes compared to the last time and that we wish to implement, and hopefully this will result in a successful training session during this year. We are mostly working on the changes in the test execution and especially on the readiness from all parties that are involved in this process. So we are going to do a more thorough dry run exercise before the start of the training session. So we are confident that this year's session will go according to the plan. With that being said, I'm also glad to share some information that didn't make the slide because it was confirmed later on, and that is the exact date of the next market training session, which will take place on 3rd of June, so Wednesday, as we usually do. We plan to once again test the full decoupling scenario, but we are going to enhance it a bit because in this specific case we are also going to include the cancellation of preliminary results to test out some new messages that we have worked on. So basically the same scenario with some enhancements, and of course, as we usually do, we will share an information package in due time, and the registration will be open, so we will keep you posted. So that's it from my side. So Karel,
Okay.
Andreas, back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, Andreas, go.
We're running a little bit out of time, but we have so many questions on this topic, and we'll try to do our best to answer the most of them or some of them, and then take back the rest. So we have written replies to all of them. So any expert that would like to go through the answering some of those questions, please go ahead.
We are, of course, tried already to answer, and we provided some of the answers already in written, as much as we could. But the topic is so interesting that there were more than 23 actually. So those are still open. If there is any appetite to answer some of them now here on the spot, please let's do that.
I can go for the first one. How much will 30 minutes help? We cannot say that. The only thing we can say, it will help because we need to have more time to solve the problems that we have, and that, but how much, that's we don't know. But more time is always welcome.
Thank you so much.
To prevent the previous decouplings, that has to be checked. That's on. I have to go back. We have to go back to check these. We had in the past. How come TSOs cannot yield more time compared to Nordics nomination deadline? I think in the Nordics, the Nordic TSOs, I think have a different process when it comes to the IGM in the afternoons. We don't have the strict timelines. We are less TSOs. We are less meshed network, and now security analysis, and we have more bidding zones as well. So that helps to do the assessment of the grid models. In core continental Europe, they need more time to do the necessary security analysis to make sure that we have a safe grid the next day and next hours. So that's why.
Thank you so much. If there is any other point, and I see Max, you have your hand up. I noticed that already before, so we take your question as well, and we are running a bit out of time. So Max, if you could sum up or say the feedback you have, and then we will try to come back with all the 23 plus questions after the call. Thank you so much. Please, Max, go ahead.
Thank you, Carol. I'll make it short. Just to thank you for the comprehensive explanations on the different workshops. The the numerous questions, I think, show that market participants' interest in being involved in this is quite high. So we would very much appreciate being involved going forward in those discussions. And we hope also that the trade-offs between the different measures will be laid out transparently. When it comes to volume allocation, just this one mentioned that at the moment, still, if there would be a partial decoupling, there would be a risk of dual prices in bidding zones. And we are very happy that volume allocation is now being rolled out, but it's unfortunate that this took so much time, and we hope, it will be go live soon in all the bidding zones, and hopefully also be aligned between the different NEMOs. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. Thank you so much, and thank you for the feedback. Indeed, that's the main purpose of this forum, to keep a good, and fruitful discussions and cooperation. So let's keep it like that. And I think the number of questions and how serious they are, shows the interest. So more than welcome. We will come back. We will try to come back as soon as we can. Just looking at the time, of course, we are running a bit out of the time. The pause, the break, supposed to end 10:45. So we start the next topic 10:45, and let's keep it sharp. So we basically shorten the break, and we keep the rest of the meetings according to the schedule. We know some people are calling precisely for those type of topics. So if we can take 10 minutes break now and meet 10:45 again, that would be perfect. Thank you so much.
Oh, I hope everybody's back, so we can continue. Yes. So the next topic is now we move on to SDAC R&D for euphemia. This is a really important area because as market needs to evolve, the algorithm and the surrounding market design also need to keep evolving with them. In this section, we'll hear updates on storage orders and also the adequacy patch revision. Both are highly relevant topics, not only from a technical point of view, but also in terms of how the day-ahead market framework can continue to adapt to new needs while still remaining robust and operationally reliable. So this is a good opportunity to get an update on where the work stands and what the next steps will look like. So with that, let's hand over to Timo Suhonen and Marja Eronen to guide us through this topic.
Thank you, Andreas. I will get started with the R&D, so we can go to the next slide. So starting with the storage orders, some of you most likely have heard about the story in the past. Due to the activities for the 15-minute MTU go live and some activities right after the go live, we have had the R&D for the storage order on the low priority and been focusing on short-term activities over the winter. So we have now reactivated the R&D track, and we are getting nicely towards the end. The idea of the storage order is that you can use a single order to optimize the sell and buy of a storage system, a battery, hydro pump station, or similar activities where during a day you can do both sell and buy transactions. Since the previous session, we have run the simulations on the topic, and the results from the performance point of view were better than we expected. We had some concerns on negative performance impact. Yes, there is some, but the results were better than expected. And the R&D details will come up in the next slide, but before that, then after the simulations are finalized and final parameters are being confirmed between ESTAC MST and our service provider, we either put a public consultation or a webinar dedicated to the storage order, depending on the market participants' view and preference during the second quarter of this year. So starting in next month, April, May. And the next MCCG in quarter 3 this year, further information about the design, and we aim to share the final designs also based on the feedback from the market participants. And current target for the go-live is in 2027 in the upcoming, in the future upcoming Euphemia release. Christina, if you go to the next one. Then providing the visibility how the system parameters can be set up for the storage order or individual storage unit. There is the maximum energy, maximum input, maximum output powers, a price spread in the cycle, what you want to have the delta from buying versus selling, how much revenue you expect to get per megawatt. Then the optional parameters. There is a default value in case nothing is provided. The starting energy point where you start on the day. The minimum energy stored, what is expected, efficiency, which on the batteries and hydro pump stations somewhere 75 to 95%. We default to 100% if nothing is given. And then you can define the value of the energy stored at the end of the market coupling session by end of the day. And further into the details, the current assumption we have that the small storage orders will be aggregated on the bidding zone level for the calculation process to limit the negative impact to the performance. And we are currently considering the aggregation either on below 5 megawatt systems or below 25 megawatt systems. And obviously feedback also from the market participants for this is very much welcome. And like said, the simulations performed so far are considering the batteries size-wise and efficiency point of view, the 0.8, 0.9 efficiency and hydropower. Technically, any kind of system that allows selling and buying in the cycle can be utilized. So if you have a gas, not gas, the hydro generation, and you on the low price and the high price, you burn hydrogen to generate the energy back. Why not? The efficiency is not there, but it's doable and compatible with the system. Then going forward to the next topic, Christina, is the adequacy patch revision. The current adequacy patch design, which is part of the curtailment, overall the curtailment management, is from the 2014 or something similar. It's more than 10 years old, and we decided to evaluate its effectiveness and potentially considering changes since the market has quite drastically changed during the last 10 years. We got the flow-based domains, Nordics, Central Europe. We have changed from hourly to quarterly market time units. More and more countries are in, and so on. And then we have had only very few occasions in the past where adequacy patch has been needed and has been activated, which means that we don't have within the day-ahead organization, within ESTAC, we don't have historical data to validate any new design or utilizing the historical data to design a better functioning adequacy patch. Therefore, we are working together with ENTSO-E task force and ENSITE together with ESTAC MSD. We have been doing the cooperation since late last year. And so ESTAC MSD is overlooking the work. ENTSO-E task force provides the actual input from their internal testing, they test data, and ENSITE has been describing so far how the adequacy patch works currently, and the next step based on the simulations is to look if there is a need in the future to redesign the adequacy patch. So the very latest updates is that we have run a small scale examples and to understand how the system behaves with the input data from ENTSO-E. The next step is to run a larger scale simulation and use more realistic data sets to get better understanding how major parts of ESTAC will behave in case there is a curtailment taking place. And then the final step is to adapt the adequacy patch design to reflect the latest ESTAC market changes, the 15-minute, the core advanced hybrid coupling, and so on. So work is ongoing, and we keep, obviously, the market participants informed when we go forward with the design and with the study itself. And once we get into the design phase of the new system, if needed, then we will provide you additional information. But this, in short, and then Maria will talk more about the data on the 15-minute.
Absolutely. Thank you, Timo, for that. There is one question actually from the members. I don't know, Timo, if you have seen it. It's about the storage orders. Are simulations performed until now, including some limitations on the usage of bidding zones, MPs?
The black and white answer is no. We have we did some time ago quite extensive sort of investigation across the Europe, identifying what storage systems are sort of in the planning phase or being developed, whether they were whatever was publicly available information, the battery farms, the pump stations in some countries, and so on. And we have been using that information to run the simulation. So altogether in ESTAC, we identified more than 10,000 units. So far, we don't see the actual limit per market participant. But like said in the presentation, due to the performance challenges, if we take absolutely everything individually to the system, then there is a performance challenge, and that's why we, on the bidding zone level, aim to aggregate for the calculation. So the small stations. like if you have a 1 megawatt battery stations and you have 400 of those in a single bidding zone from the one market participants, then we aggregate those all and across the market participants as well.
Thank you, Timo. Thank you for that answer. We didn't receive any other, so we could move on. Of course, meanwhile, if you feel there are some questions, please put them, and we will try to answer us for any other questions, within Q&A. And here I will leave the floor to Maria. This topic was very much requested to present some statistics and, the progress after the day ahead, 15 minutes go live. Maria, I leave the floor to you.
Thank you. Yes, so I think we can jump to the next one already. Now we a bit deep dive to the 15 minutes order volumes as well for the trade volumes and the development for the last 4 months. So since beginning of the October until end of the January. First slides we look at the overall number of the offered volumes and then go into the further looking at the total trade volumes. So we can go to the next one. This is just the introduction what will be in the slide. So yes, so this is the showing about the total the 15 minutes curve volume as well the 15 minutes curve and block volume compared to total volume in each area. And here we call the area. We have of course the Baltic here is considered as one area. It's the region and not the country, but many others are with the country numbers here show, not the bidding zone numbers as well aggregated. And if we look at the total volume in the just curve volumes compared to the 16 minutes and 30 minutes volumes of 15 minutes curve volume is about 80% of the total offered curve volumes. And the same goes when we combine the curve and the block orders in the same. There has been some increase in the different countries. Here the illustration shows, of course, the Iberia, where Spain and Portugal together has only the 15 minutes curve orders, block orders. So that's why that goes to the 100% per se. But then the other regions is quite nicely going up as well on the overall share of the 15 minutes volume compared to the other market time units. I won't go here one by one because you all are able to read it from this table, I would say. For the next slides, we go with the month by month. So I think we can go to the next one. Yes, so here we are showing you the statistic October, November, December, and January as the monthly statistic and looking at the curve volume share of 15 minutes time resolution compared to total curve volume. And here, I think the pointed here are listed on the left-hand side. So the biggest increase has been in Croatia since October, when the last time this was presented. The values we shown in from the October month, and these are compared to the October month and the full 4 months. So there we see 66% is now increased, and Czech to 63, and Slovenia 76, and there is only one where we see a small decrease in Austria, 53 to 47, but that of course this is still a short period of time after go live, so we can see the differences and in the monthly basis as well. The seasonal impacts are taken into account. The next one we look at the same statistic on the block volumes. where I think we see more increase and more changes compared to the October values, where, for example, the Baltic region started with the high purchases of keeping the 60 minutes block orders, where they have been increased a lot using the 15 minutes block order volumes. Belgium has also almost 100% of the block orders offered in the 15 minutes time resolution. And then some other countries are going over 90%, like Poland, Finland, and Slovenia here, which is of course good. And this was for the offered volumes. Then when we go to the next one, where we look at the next slide, where we look at also taking account the 30 minutes volumes. Is it only my screen that has this stuck, or can we go to the next? Yes, so this one, we have a 30 minutes data included, and the monthly figures showing about that how the 30 minutes products are used, where of course in the island, which was not included in the previous slides, as they have 100% of the 30 minutes MTU orders used. So here we see as well that there are some other countries as well using the 30 minutes products. So maybe a bit surprising, but anyway, Denmark, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Poland, and Romania has also starting to use the 30 minutes products. Some of them have been using it since the go live, but some of only after October. And of course, the majority of the volumes coming from Ireland, as there the 30 minutes MTU is the mandatory. I would say good progress we see on the 15 minutes in overall, going from the now a bit below 80%, now above the 80% since when looking at the monthly statistic from October to January, end of the January, and average is around 80%, like shown in the first slide. The next one, we look at the benefit about the traded volumes. If you go to the next slide. Yes. So in this section, we look at the volumes as the total on the day-ahead market area, not on the region or country-based figures. And there, the submarket curve volumes was already looking at the previous slides as regions based, but then about the matched volume, which is the combining the demand and supply. We see on the 15 minutes total volume, which is the curve volume matched different time resolutions here on the right-hand side. And there the purchase is about the same actually in the matched compared to the offered volumes. So if we have totally offered about the 14 terawatt hours in the beginning of the February, just an example, then the total matched volume is around 11 point something in total. So, and the duration is kept as the same as the offered. Yeah, and here we actually have a curve and block orders and the scalable complex orders, just to open the acronyms that was shown in the previous slide. And here the number of the block orders has kept around the same level or slightly increased after 15 minutes go live being seen. And this is the highlight here. We are looking now the statistic from the last 19 days. So the day that is included is 2nd of February and 90 days backwards. So this is not for the 4 months period. But if we could include here the beginning of the October, we could be in the same level. So the trend is being quite stable. I think I don't have to go to the numbers, and then I think we have one last slide where we look at more about the matched volumes per time resolution as a pie diagrams, and there we have a 90 days figures, then we have a last 30 days, so it's basically January month, and then the last 7 days, which was the last week of January on this left-hand side. And that's also divided with the total matched volume containing the curves and blocks and all products. Then we have in the middle of only the curve volumes, and then on the right-hand side we have then the other matched volumes containing only the block orders. And there we see the total matched volume. If we look at the 90 days and compare it to the last 7 days in the purchases point of view, we have 85% about the total matched volumes in the last 90 days could represent also the last 7 days are matched with the 15 minutes time resolution. Approximately the same value for the curve volumes, a bit higher, 86%, and then on the block and the others are a bit over 70% of the 15 minutes time. Then as additions of the calculation time, about the reminder that the calculation time was in before 15 minutes go live, 17 minutes after go live was extended to 30 minutes, and now we look at it how it impacts in real life, how the time to find first solution means that when the Eufemia finds the first solution when it starts the calculations, first solution is not the final solution necessary, but calculation use the time that is given to find the better solution as well. But only now focus on the first solution that has been found. So before 15 minutes, time to find first solution was less than 2 minutes on average in the last year and on the end of September. But then after go live, now looking at the first 4 months, time to find first solution is almost 8 minutes, so 455 seconds. So there is a 4 times higher around the time to find the first solution in the algorithm. So that's also was seen in when the test for the 15 minutes time resolution was run, that there is a need to increase the time for algorithm, and that's also evident with this looking at the time to find first solution now in production. Of course, 8 minutes is less than 30 minutes, but the algorithm will have more time to find a better solution, and in case there is any issues, it can consume more time to find proper solutions. There has been some spikes seen in the calculations in some days, and those are also investigated the root cause, what could have been in behind. Going back to the discussion corrective measures we had earlier, we see we haven't triggered any of those corrective measures or the time to meet the corrective measures, start the analysis of the corrective measures. So far, so good. That was, I think, the last one for statistic. Is there any?
Thank you, Maria. Yes, there is one. Actually, there is one question. I can share it directly and read it for you, and you decide if that is possible to be answered. Now I lost it. There was the one about
transfers between market areas included
Indeed,
15 minutes
indeed,
volumes in the
yes.
statistic.
Yeah.
we are looking at the products offered only, and then transfers are the capacities allocated on the borders. Even the calculation is done in the 16 minutes. They are allocated in the 15 minutes. So if I capture this correctly, then I would say yes. If I understood correctly the question, I would say yes, those are included, but we are looking only the products. And of course, when we look at the matched volumes, that's the matched volumes. It doesn't take account, is it cross-border or locally, because that we don't do the separation in a day ahead.
There is one more about the time to first solution. I don't know, Mara, you want to take it?
Maybe I could give this to the operations of the NEMOs. That could be answer possible on this one. On the corrective measures, we of course have the indication that if we reach the 30 minutes a couple of times, or we see the tendency to increase, that would kick off the investigation, the corrective measures apply process. Otherwise, we have, of course, the procedures that we follow when we can still continue the calculation beyond the 30 minutes time, and when we have a deadline for the starting the decoupling processes. But the time to find first solution for NEMOs, I think we can come back on this writing if there is a.
I think so too. I think so too. Thank you, Maria, and please send the questions I see they are slowly coming. We will go to another point, I think, in the agenda. It's the regulatory deliverables and consultation. Here is the latest news about harmonized min-max price for the clearing price. I mean, the title is long, but I leave the floor to Chiara and Christoforos to guide you through. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. So just a few words regarding the last decision of ACER on HMMCP methodologies. As you know, NEMO submitted their proposal last August to ACER, and the main content of our amendment proposal was related to the introduction of a liquidity matrix to be taken into account for triggering event. And this liquidity metric requests the traded volume per bidding zone MTU in the auction to be greater than 5 megawatt. This was the proposal for NEMO side, both for SDAC and SITC. Then the decision from ACER came on February 4th, 2026, with the decision number 2 and 3, 2026. ACER rejected the inclusion of such liquidity metrics proposed by the NEMOs, while included the specific provision for excluding from triggering events those bidding zones in which we have partial decoupling of at least one NEMO trading hub. So coming to the main reasoning for ACER decision in the next slide. Please. Thank you. According to ACER, they rejected our proposal for inclusion of the liquidity metrics because from their point of view, the methodology, the HMMCP methodology, both for SDAC and SITC, is already effective in ensuring that automatic adjustment of the clearing prices are not triggered by single market participants' bid, or are related to mistakes or isolated events, like could have been in our, let's say, proposal for amendment for the inclusion of the 5 megawatt triggering liquidity metric. Then the second reasoning from ACER in this respect is that adding a liquidity matrix which is based only on the traded volume would restrict the orderly and free price formation. And finally, in their view, the available cross-zonal capacity will reduce or completely remove the potential impact of limited liquidity in some bidding zone. And so for this reason, they do not think it was useful to add such liquidity metrics, while they proposed another amendment, which is reported in the next slide. Yeah, Acer introduced an amendment which is for addressing the situation where at least one NEMO trading hub becomes uncoupled, while at least one other NEMO trading hub is still coupled in the same bidding zone. In these cases, the Acer decision says that the partially coupled bidding zone should not be considered for the sake of updating the min-max price. And this, the main change in the methodology is then in the article 4.1d and 4.2d, in which this article reports the criteria which should be considered in order to exclude the bidding zone for be taken into account for the update of the min-max price. And in this case, the excluded bidding zone are the virtual bidding zone, uncoupled bidding zone, like in the previous methodology, plus partially coupled zones which mix NEMO trading hub status. So essentially, this is the main news on this HMMCP methodology, according to last Acer decision in February 2026. I do not know if we have any question on this, or okay. Otherwise, we can take it also offline if it comes later.
No questions so far, not on the topic.
Okay, but we are here, so if something appears, we can try to clarify today directly or later on.
If I may, I just added a question asking whether NEMOs agree with the assessment from Acer that cross-zonal capacity, when available, would mitigate the risk of price spikes in bidding zones where there is no liquidity, for example, in the context of energy community countries joining the SDAC and SADC.
You know, we made this proposal, so we thought that this was meaningful, but yeah, we understand the reasoning from Acer, so once the methodology is there, it's just a matter of compliance from our side. I don't know if Christophorus wants to add something.
Well, only to add that at least during the discussion, it was raised that the capacity available at the interconnection is that in any case an input to the algorithm. So if it is less capacity in the connection, at the end we are becoming more stringent in conditions, okay, of liquidity also in any other, let's say, connected bidding zones. So this has already been, let's say, discussed, but currently is not reflected in the final document of the HMMCP methodology. So I assume that in the next, let's say, months to come, or in the upcoming consultations for the same methodology, we can take down again the same discussion, and we will see where we are going to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Are there any other questions? If not, we can continue, and of course, feel free to state them. Everything will be documented anyway, and we will follow up on those. Would you take over, Andreas, or?
Yes, I'm going to present the next section, which is the SDAC SIDC roadmap and key projects. This part is very useful because it brings together a number of important developments that are often discussed separately, but we have them here in one, let's say, presentation. We'll hear about the roadmap itself, key ongoing projects and the expected planning across a multiple number of areas, including work optimization, core AHC, regional go-lives, and flow-based developments in intraday. It's a good reminder that many other projects are linked to each other, So timing and sequencing really matter, and we present everything here with a bird's eye view, let's say, of the whole thing. And here we have the chairs of MCSE themselves presenting this, so I think it's very important. Thank you. We can proceed to the presentation. Yeah.
Will you continue, Andre or Andra?
Yes. Yes. Hello. Good. Still morning, everyone. So I will briefly guide you through the roadmap and key projects of basically 2026, 2027, which we are heading into. As you can see, this is divided into several sections. The most important are, of course, the releases we are planning. So we are shortly before release of PMB 14 and Euphemia 12, which is delivering one of the key improvements, which is moving to the solver express, which is a fundamental change, which hopefully will bring us also the desired improvement for performance and potential for further improvements in the future. So this is a big milestone, mostly for the technological stream, where we can work further with the Express solver, as we were not unable before. For the end of the year, we are still planning a new release of PMB 14.1 and Euphemia 12.1, and further this may be merged also with PMB 15. There are some ongoing discussion. In case, of course, this will not be merged, there will be subsequent release in first half of 2027 of PMB 15. Related to the intraday, as you were already been made aware, we do have now the release 5.0 under testing. Hopefully this will go live early Q2 and will deliver some significant performance improvement. After that, we are working on release 5.1, which is delivering binary API, which is as well fundamental performance improvement for XBit, and we hope that this will elevate certainly some of the latency issues we are fully aware of. After that, we have a fundamental release 6.0, which is delivering flow-based for IDaaS. The plan is to start testing late 2026 and basically conclude the testing over the 2027 with potential delivery somewhere at the end of 2027, as still under construction of planning. So we do not have an exact date or quarter for that, but we are trying to optimize the planning as much as possible, also to parallelize a testing a little bit with release 5.1 delivery, because we are fully aware that flow-based in IDA is especially important for NRAs and Acer. Related to further R&D, as you are also probably aware, we are working on co-optimization R&D. During 2026, we will be working heavily on so-called report 2, R2, which will be hopefully delivered in second half of 2026. Related to intraday R&D, we are in a process of R&D for flow-based continuous trading, so not IDaaS, that will be already, or that is already in the development. But for the continuous trading, we are working on minimum viable product. We are analyzing multiple options. There will be subsequent slides related to this. This is very important R&D. We are still not yet in the performance we would like to see, but we are making a significant progress in both streams currently under a deep investigation. Related to extension projects, there are multiple extensions that will go in I would say batches. We have one of these batches in Q2 2026. As you can see, this will cover IPEX in Baltic, possibly M&A in Slovenia and Croatia, still under discussion and confirmations. And then there are other projects coming later on this year, hopefully Q4, which will be a Baltic cable, Celtic interconnector, and potential ETPA extensions. But these do not have yet the exact go live date. And the similar approach is related to the SDAC extension, also in several batches. So as you can see, there are extensions within, again, Baltics, Slovenia M&A, and Croatia M&A, and then, as mentioned before, Celtic interconnector as well, and also the ETPA extensions. And related to further regional implementations, we are in a process of testing the core advanced hybrid coupling. So this will be the major delivery milestone, hopefully in Q2 2026. And as you have been already made aware in intraday, we do have this phased 30-minute intraday cross-zonal gate closure time, which has been completed at the beginning of year for some borders, but there will be some other borders and bidding zones coming later on this year, hopefully Hungary and Netherlands, and then in beginning of 2027 and later on in 2027 as well. But this is related to the derogations discussed already before. So unless there are some questions directly to roadmap, I will hand over to Cosimo to guide you through some of the key development related to optimization.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. Good morning, everybody. Already, indeed, Andre mentioned this key project. We are proceeding with the work already started quite an amount of time ago. You know that from the algo methodology, it was expected to start working on the way to implement co-optimization into the current existing algorithm. The R1 report, the first deliverable, has been already approved and submitted to Acer with good result. It is published and available, so you have access to all the relevant information on this first study, which focuses so much on fundamental choice of design for the products and the algorithm to make it fly. Obviously, we all know that optimization will be a demanding change to the algorithm in terms of performance and market design. Now we enter the phase for the so-called R2 report preparation, which is going towards the implementation. So there is a first part of the activity which is related to technical simulation to provide the technical feasibility, the having the proper data and the proper running of the machine, and then a second round of this simulation phase where we actually try to simulate outcome based on more realistic data. So these are the two phases you find here mentioned, and we are targeting late spring and for the simulation and final Earth summary. So this is well proceeding for the time being, and we consider to provide full further information along the way in the next MCCGs.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm just taking off from Cosimo with the next topic. Hello, everybody. Called Core Advanced Hybrid Coupling. We like acronyms. That's why we put so many right in the beginning, and then we go throughout the chapter. So please bear with me. So in the core region, in the core capacity calculation region, the advanced hybrid coupling methodology is now being implemented, or more precisely integrated into SDAC. This slide that you see here is a bit old already, so we have a bit more positive news. We have some sort of a sequence of go-live plan, which is first Hansa phase 2. So this is basically the implementation of the capacity calculation methodology in the Hansa region, which is close to being final in terms of testing, which hopefully then finalizes by the end of this week, but it looks very good. And so the planned go-live of 17th of March is we have a very high likelihood to happen as planned. And this is good news because it allows not only a parallel testing to start, which we did for called advanced hybrid coupling this Monday, and also the first tests were successful, but it also allows then to keep the timeline. And as we have seen also in this project, yes, we do have the focus here on short-term markets, in this case day ahead, but many of the implementations that we have here are also sequenced or having impact on other implementations, particularly here of the implementation of the congestion income distribution, CID is the terms I think on this page, not only for the short term, but also for the long term. And obviously here also looking into the long-term implementation project, implementing long-term flow-based as of Q4 this year. So in order to keep the sequence, quite important that we also uphold this sequence, which we do. So it looks rather promising. As said, Hansa is set to go live mid-March. And based on that, and also the first successful test, and the test will be going on in March and April, we are rather confident that the 20th of May, which is now the date that hopefully we can also uphold, also with the changes made in the central system, the PMB, as well as Euphemia, as explained by Maya earlier on, the performance upgrades needed to advance the system, or to be able in the system to calculate the more complex inputs coming from advanced hybrid coupling, which not only take into consideration proximity within a capacity calculation region, but also what happens around the capacity calculation region core, and for example the links towards the Nordics via Hansa. So in all this looks very good. In between we will also have then the go live of this CID, this congestion income distribution mechanism via JAO, which is also rather on track. So in that sense, this big go live in March with Hansa, and even bigger go live in May, seems to be on track. So this is good news for the project, and also for all the other measures that we are planning for in Q2 following 2026. Moving to the next slide. Yeah, but it's not all about Hansa, not all about core advanced hybrid coupling, but we also see that we have more of the M&A agreements, the multi-NEMO agreements, or competition amongst NEMOs in various bidding zones or regions to be go live this year in day ahead, in the intraday auctions, as well as in intraday continuous trading. Again, we make good use of abbreviations here, but what we can see that the NEMOs EPEX Nord Pool, BSP of Slovenia, CROPEX Croatia, and ETPA stemming from the Netherlands are now moving also to other markets or other timeframes. We are currently quite diligent, including later on also Nord Pool to Ireland, which is ZEM here. So we're making good progress on the planning, but also the local projects are progressing. But in order also for the local projects to progress, they would also need regulatory comfort. And in several of those regions, the implementation of M&A is not just a new function, but it's also a new way of working. So this also has been or is needed to be finalized before the implementation actually can then only take place, or the testing to it, but also the go-live windows are properly planned, and we also need to take them in a certain sequence. As we have seen, we have a couple of projects being prepared in parallel, so sequencing, prioritizing based on the comfort of the local implementation projects, but also the regulatory decision taking on the ground will then funnel into this kind of planning. So this planning that you currently see is still under discussion, but we are hopeful that in due time we can finalize the planning. In any case, Q2 and even more so, I suppose, Q3 will be busy with the implementation of the various extensions of competition amongst NEMOs in Europe. And most likely this is also good news for market participants, being easier able to deal also in other bidding zones and or using the current NEMO that they're at to expand to new markets. So in that sense, it's also a very important implementation project, which we are trying to coordinate not only with the parties as said, but also across the various timeframes. Andreas, I think that's all from my side.
Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Yeah.
Yeah, me and David from SIDC MSD will introduce you to the current status for work we are doing. The whole project, of course, is doing for the introduction of flow-based in the intraday timeframe. With the assumption of introducing the flow-based method in both continuous trading and IDA. When it comes to the continuous trading, we asked the current service provider for the continuous trading market, Deutsche Börse, to execute a proof of concept for the implementation of flow-based, and this was happening back in the end of 2023. And this was done based on the design prepared by NEMOS and TSOs. It was provided a delivery that unfortunately was not fitting the, let's say, criteria on performance. So they were providing a results that was very disappointing from performance perspective, and also was providing some conceptual issue when it comes the way the model was working on matching orders. And since we were in any case involved in the introduction of the flow-based in the intraday time frame as well, as much as it is for the SDAC framework, and this is, of course, I can remember to everybody as per regulation. We started to evaluate in parallel. So we started to consider the possibility to introduce the flow-based only in the auction, only in the intraday auction, keeping the continuous trading market with the NTC method as a transitory approach, as a transitory implementation. While we do that, considering that there are less points to be clarified when it comes to the introduction of flow-based in the auction, because the assets we are using are from day ahead, and we know that day ahead is already able to work with the auction, although we will see that there are some fine-tuning needed from XBID as well. We started in parallel also some R&D on the introduction of flow-based implementation. We are doing as much as we can to interact with the regulators so we can take into account their evaluation and feedback on the work as much as possible. And we can totally confirm that NEMOS and TSOs are fully committed in the introduction of flow-based in the intraday, and that's considered as one of the highest priorities for the SIDC. project. And then I will hand over to David.
Thank you. So a few more details on what Lara already indicated, and in fact also Andre when presenting the roadmap. So when we would take a look to the Flowbase in IDAS in more detail, as indicated in the previous slide by Lara, as we have started to see that implementing of Flowbase to all, let's say, time horizons, respectively to continuous training would take time. We started in principle at the end of 2024 to take a look to the design phase or to design of IDAS. And as mentioned, in fact, of course, the part of the process which is performed reusing the day-ahead assets required some minor fine-tunings or would require, and these are also under implementation. But the changes to the XBit solution itself, so changes to the preparation of the capacities, validation of the results, and so on. This, let's say, was kind of even more complex than we initially expected. Anyway, the design phase is positively, let's say, completed, so that's very positive. Was completed, let's say, shortly after the summer last year, and the implementation was started. So implementation phase planning is available as well. So we know, of course, when the implementation would be completed and when we can start the testing. So in principle, the testing phase is now in the focus because this is the only phase where we have some space theoretically, of course, to still do something to achieve the implementation as soon as possible. So as said, this is the highest priority to further optimize the planning which we already have. There is limited, of course, possibilities to further optimize it. We did really the maximum already until now. So the planning which we are working now with is foreseeing that the testing activities would be completed in November 2027 and started in autumn this year in principle. And where we are still trying to achieve also some further optimization is regarding go live preparation activities, which also include the member tests. So this is what was or is kind of a place for some optimizations. So we would have another milestone in principle in the end of this year, where the early tests of the release 6.0, which is including the Flowbase for IDA, would be ongoing, and we would then have possibility potentially to review the timeline again. What is important also to understand what are the major challenges or highlight for this activity, and that's parallelization of releases and parallelization of the testing. So as presented in the roadmap, there are a lot of releases which are now in principle almost finalized from testing point of view. Another release which will come soon, which would require testing. So also what needs to be kept in mind is that here we are focusing to the central systems, but obviously there are also major changes to the regional systems, especially which would be preparing capacity calculations. So this is in principle the background for the timeline as seen today. Anyway, again, would repeat that we are doing maximum to find some optimizations and ensure that there will be no further delays. So I would suggest that we go to the next slide. And yeah, here is a bit more content. And I think maybe also some interesting information for you, because we, let's say, have not presented so much on this topic yet. As mentioned also by Lara, we have these two streams, flow-based in IDA, which I have just presented, and flow-based for continuous trading. So this is purely R&D now. We had these problems or issues with the first MVP, with the performance and with the conceptual issues. So we kind of changed the approach. First, we took the approach where we have several, let's say, work streams, or here called approaches, to be able to ensure that if one approach is proven in a certain moment, that it would not be further possible to achieve what we expect, then we can switch in principle to another approach. So that's one, let's say, strategy in our further work on R&D. Then the change which we took is also that we are working on standalone prototype, trying to address all the issues which we have seen in the MVP with XBit provider, and only when the prototype would show that, and that's related especially to approach A and D, only if the prototype would show that we are reaching the expected performance, or we have managed to resolve the respective conceptual issues, we would start to work again with the XBit provider. In principle, the reasons are efficiency and also to save the resources of the XBit provider, which should focus on the flow-based in IDA implementation and other topics. Now, presenting these three approaches, we have approach A, solver-based. So that's in principle going in the scope of the original expectations, that we expect that solver-based approach should be solving in optimum way the flow-based for continuous trading. In this approach, all the constraints from topology, meaning RAM, PTDF, ATCs, are used directly in the solver in the coupling stage, and all the allocations and capacity allocations and matching and so on are based directly on these data. We have first results from this approach on the standalone prototype. These are quite promising. Anyway, it should be highlighted that there is number of steps to be completed. So in principle, we started from the basic, let's say, requirements, which we are, let's say, continuously increasing to include additional features, which are obviously needed for the real operation. And only so that means that we have completed the phase 2. We are starting hopefully soon. Phase 1 is completed. We are starting phase 2 soon, hopefully. Anyway, number of steps, and when, as I mentioned, only when the prototype would be showing all is good, we will switch to extension of the XBit. So from that point of view, it should be kept in mind that the target of completing all the let's say evolutions and testings and so on, if everything goes well, would be 2029 plus. Then we have approach G, which is single metrics. There we tried in principle to address one of the conceptual issues, which is linked to the hybrid grid. So combining the flow-based and ATC constraints, and there we would try in principle to create one PTDF matrix in principle, replacing the ATC interconnectors by something which is comparable to PTDF. This approach is on hold because it has own challenges with the pre-processing and so on. We have still keep it as an approach which we might consider if the solver-based approach would fail. And approach E, dynamic ATC recalculation, this is conceptually, let's say, very different comparing to approach A and D, because here we would, in principle, in the coupling stage, keep the ATCs and the whole matching routing process as it is today, but the flow-based data would be kind of pre-processed with frequent repetitive ATC extractions, which would have the advantage, as I said, in principle, that the coupling part remains as is, We have here already the CR in principle ready for discussion with Deutsche Börse, and we are running some quantitative analysis. So if this approach would be confirmed as let's say, still promising in the quantitative analysis, this could be implemented much earlier than approach A or D. So as highlighted, or to repeat, we are using kind of iterative approach, a stepwise approach to ensure that the improvements would be delivered, or there would be some improvements which we can go live with, and we would not get stuck with full R&D for, let's say, 4 or 5 years and so on. So that's from my side all.
Yes, thank you very much, David. So this brings us to the closing of this event. We have covered all the topics, and basically we are now going to have an overall, let's say, discussion about what answers can we give now and what we can take for later to deliver in the Q&A document. So again, one question to the experts, what can we answer now? And please go forward and answer the questions that you think you can answer now. So if we have no volunteers, okay, so Carol, we can close the event here, I think.
Yes, some of them in the meantime have been answered. Maybe it's not fully up to date in the view in the screen, but indeed, yeah.
Thank you so much. I mean, let's continue to answer them, of course, in the background, and I guess we are, the system is a bit slow. Thank you, Lara, for that. We are a bit faster than we expected now, especially after the break. So that was a good optimization, I think. A lot of questions, especially we noticed on the fallback discussion, but also later on statistics and R&D and the projects. We hear as well some now on flow-based. So thank you so much for that. As communicated, all this will be transparent, all will be documented, and we will try to come back to you as soon as we can within the, I think, few weeks. And if we are not able to answer all of them, because some of them are a bit more complex to answer and there is no really straightforward answer, we will inform you accordingly that for some of them we will need to have more time. But of course, we will try to tackle as many as we can. And all this will be public and updated. Thank you from my side for the meeting. Especially big thanks to organizers, PMO, but as well huge inputs and good challenging questions from market participants. So really good cooperation, and the next meetings are scheduled by the end of June, beginning of July. The date still to be discussed and decided. That's in front of us, and we hope you enjoy the meeting. Thank you so much from my side.
Thank you so much from my side as well. I think I would like to thank everybody that prepared this meeting today, this event. There is a lot of work going into these events, and we try to bring you all the relevant information in the most concrete and specific way. And thank you very much for participating. We had more than 200 participants today. So thank you very much for this. And of course, this is very crucial for MCSE to take this feedback. And we take all your remarks and questions very seriously. And we will try to open them to answer them in a very open and concrete way. So we covered a lot of ground today, from the corrective measures to fallback improvements, euphemia developments. I think sessions like this are valuable, and we look forward to having you in the next MCCG meeting, which is going to be later on this year. So from my side, thank you for participating.
Yeah, also
Max,
from me, thank you very much, Andreas and Carol, for your remarks, and to all the NEMOs and TSOs for the work they put into preparing this material. We look forward to further exchanging on the topics, on the questions that have been posted, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so thank you very much. We're going to publish the Q&A document very shortly, and we'll let you know of the further developments. That's all from my side.
Yes, we keep in touch and we see each other soon.